Today our speaker is Giovan Peyrotty. He is based in Switzerland and he has created Science Escape, which I think he will talk, present more extensively afterwards. He did his PhD and postdoc at the University of Geneva in geology. And yes, he's the founder of Sciencescape, which mission is to strengthen, it's a difficult word to say, strengthen the link between science and society through visual storytelling. So I'll just hand it out to you now, Giovan. Thank you for giving us a presentation today.
Okay, just let me share my screen. Yeah, can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can see it. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Why? Okay. So thank you very much, Lisa, for this kind of introduction. So yeah, today I would like to share some highlights about scientific communication and in particular about the role that video content can play in communicating science to broader audiences. And yeah, just before diving into the topic, let me briefly introduce myself and the organization I represent so you have a bit of context. So, as Lisa said, my name is Giovan Peyrotty. I did a PhD and a postdoc in geology at the University of Geneva. And I was working on carbonate sedimentology and geochemistry. And I was working mainly on fossil reefs of Triassic age from the Pantalassa Ocean. So I still do a bit of research, but more like a hobby. I collaborate with colleagues from different universities on different topics related mostly, as Lisa said, to paleoclimate. But today, my main professional activity is with Science Escape. So, what about Science Escape? What is Science Escape? Science Escape is a non-profit organization based in Geneva, in Switzerland, founded in 2021 by researchers from the University of Geneva, including myself and two colleagues. And today we are a team of about 35 people with three full-time employee interns and around 30 volunteers. So the mission of Sciencescape is quite simple, at least on paper. So the mission is to bridge the gap between science and society through visual storytelling. So we produce scientific audiovisual content for broad audiences, and this can include documentaries, explainers, or short video for social media. And also a big part of our work is to distribute this content to different audiences. So to do that, we use many different channels, such as web, social platforms, VOD, public screenings, television, also film festival, school workshops, and many more. And the idea behind Sciencescape was originally to follow scientists in the field during their research mission. And by filming their work and interviewing them, we gather all the material, all the shots we need to create engaging stories about scientific topics. So we still do that. We still use this approach, but over the years, we also developed other kind of formats. And this job, this work, this mission of communicating science through video content, it combines many interesting aspects. Of course, science, exploration, travel, storytelling, and also something very interesting is the artistic creation. Because unlike academic research, this work involves a strong creative dimension which I find personally quite interesting and rewarding. So yeah, but above all, as I said, the goal of Sciencescape is to make the link between science and society a bit stronger because this connection is often fragile or sometimes even absent for some part of the population. So the most important thing for us at Sciencescape is working on something that makes sense. And scientific communication indeed plays a role, a crucial role for several reasons. So yeah, first of all, Scientific communication allows research to become visible to the public. In countries like Switzerland, for example, a large part of research funding comes from public money through taxes. And it's therefore quite important that citizens understand what research is being conducted at universities, why it matters, and how it benefits the society. So providing access to this knowledge helps the public understand why continued investment in research is important. So, for example, someday for potential next vote about a new law that plans, for example, to reduce research budget, citizens, people, they can have all the keys, all the understanding about what kind of research is being conducted at the universities. They have all these keys to vote for the right decision. So yeah, scientific communication also plays a role in the political sphere. So many major challenges today, they require scientific knowledge. And this include, for example, climate change, biodiversity loss, public health, sustainability. And when policymakers have access to reliable scientific information, they can make more informed decisions. So in practice, we all know this connection between science and politics is not always strong and sometimes doesn't even exist. But trying to make it a bit stronger it remains essential, it remains crucial. So be able to provide politicians with scientific educational support is today quite important. And another key objective for scientific communication is inspiring future careers in science. Because today, in our society, we need and we will need many scientists, many researchers, many engineers, all these kind of people who can tackle all the current challenges humanity is facing today. So scientific communication helps show younger generations that science is exciting, meaningful, and accessible to all. And at Sciencescape, we do also something more. We also make a specific effort to highlight women scientists because women, they remain today underrepresented in many scientific fields. So showing women roles in our films, in our production helps young girls imagine themselves pursuing scientific careers. So this is what we do at Sciencescape. And yeah, as we just saw, scientific communication is important for several reasons. But how can we do scientific communication effectively? So when I entered the field of scientific communication a few years ago, I realized that communicating science effectively, it requires following several key principles. And I often refer to them as golden rules. So the first of these golden rules is to simplify scientific jargon. If scientists speak to the public exactly as they do with their lab mates or colleagues at the university, of course, most people will not understand the message. So it's going to be just gibberish for them. So communicating science, it requires removing unnecessary technical details, simplifying terminology, and focusing on essential message. And the goal is really clarity and accessibility for all. The second important rule is to evoke emotions because emotions, they play a major role in learning and memory. And if a message triggers emotions such as curiosity, wonder, surprise, excitement, people are far more likely to pay attention and remember the information. And this is because the human brain tends to give priority to information associated with emotional experiences. So triggering emotions is really important in communication in general, not only scientific communication. And the third rule for a more effective communication is to engage several senses, because senses are also important as well as emotions. So for example, a documentary, when you watch a documentary, it already engages sight and hearing, of course. But it might not be enough for the brain to remember the information. And by combining formats, we can enhance the experience. A film can be complemented in that case with discussions, workshops, or exhibitions, for example, where people can touch, smell, taste some objects or products. And this multiplies the impact of the message because it triggers many senses. And finally, the last rule, communication must be adapted to a specific audience, because the idea of addressing the general public is often misleading, because general public doesn't really mean anything. Among the general public, there are different audiences that have different backgrounds and different expectations. For example, school children are different from teenagers, from young professionals, from seniors. So each audience requires a different level of explanation and storytelling. So yeah, these are the golden rules, and if you follow them, the message you want to deliver should be clear for at least for the audience you targeted first. So, okay, so we just look at some basic principles that can be applied to any kind of scientific communication or any kind of communication, in fact. But there are many ways to communicate science, and these different approaches can complement each other. And these approaches, they can include many different things, such as written media, interactive formats, public events, exhibitions, games, comic books, so many ways of communicating science. But among these approaches, video content has become particularly powerful, and this is why we focus on it at Science Escape. But why video is a powerful tool? So, in fact, video content has several advantages compared to the other way of communicating science. First of all, sorry, it evokes emotions, and as we saw before, it's quite important. So through images, music, sound, landscapes, and also human stories, video can create strong emotional engagement. And viewers can also they can identify with researchers and share the experience they have in the lab, in the field. So yeah, it's quite important to video content allows to evoke emotions. And for example, just to give you a difference, because unlike workshop or exhibition, for example, which reach a limited number of people in a limited geographical area also, video content are accessible to everyone and can reach a very large audiences. Because today, most people have access to television, to the internet, to digital platforms such as YouTube, Instagram, and so on. And this makes video extremely accessible to almost everyone. And at Sciencescape, we also ensure that our content remains freely accessible to everyone, because we want to remove any financial barrier to knowledge. And all of our production are accessible for free on YouTube or other platforms. So nothing is on a platform you have to pay to access. So this is really important for us at Sciencescape. And what is also interesting with video content is that video content can be also distributed through many different channels, as I said a bit before. So like YouTube, social media, television, film festivals, universities, schools, public screenings, and many others. So this diversity of channels greatly increases its reach. And video can also complement other way of communicating science. For example, today, it's quite rare to see an exhibition without video content, because video works very well as a complementary tool for any kind of exhibition. Another example comes from a project we are currently developing at Sciencescape, and this project combines two formats, a documentary film and a comic book. So these two approaches complement each other. So the idea is to screen the documentary to school children, and after the screening, they will receive a comic book which they can keep. And this gives them a physical object that helps them remember the subject, the topic, as well as the experience and emotions they felt during the film. So yeah, these are just a few examples of how video can interact with other formats. And yeah, last but not least, video content also offers a wide range of formats, allowing almost unlimited creativity, making it possible to adapt the message to different audiences. So let's talk now about the different types of video content. So the most well-known format is, of course, the documentary. So what is interesting with documentaries is that they can take different forms, from dynamic to contemplative, for example. So we can have investigative format, observational, field reporting, as I said, contemplative storytelling. For example, if you are watching at wildlife documentaries, for example. So there is at the end something for everyone, for every taste. But the thing is with documentaries, the issue with documentaries is that they're really, really expensive to produce because they require a production team, travel, most of the time travel, and research, a long time of research to master the topic, a long filming time, a long editing process. So just to give you an example, at Sciencescape, one of our current documentary projects has a production budget of around 200,000 Swiss francs. So it's quite expensive, but it's not that expensive compared to production made by BBC or RT or RTS, for example, which can reach millions and millions just for one documentary of like 30 minutes. So it's really expensive. Yeah, documentary is really expensive to create. So this is the main issue with this format. Another popular format is the explainer video, which has been widely popularized by platforms like YouTube or Dailymotion or this kind of stuff over the last 15 years. And this video usually they involve one person explaining one specific topic, and those explanations are often supported by graphics or illustrations, for example. And this format has many advantages because it's relatively inexpensive to do. It's quite easy to produce, even if you have many skills of video production. And everyone a bit motivated can create this kind of format, in fact. But yeah, it has one big limitation, and this limitation is the flexibility of the format. Because if you want to modify this format even slightly, you quickly end up moving toward more expensive production, in fact, closer to documentaries. So it should remain one person talking, explaining a specific topic with illustration. So it's really interesting, but it's not really flexible. And the last format I wanted to talk about is short videos designed for social media platforms. And this format is today increasingly important, especially because of the recent development of short video content on platforms such as Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and so on. And those platforms are really important because they allow creators to reach very large audiences. Because today, almost everyone of every age of from every country, everyone is watching content on such platform. So what is interesting? So this is really interesting for this aspect. And what is also interesting with this format is that today it's possible to create high quality content for such platform using relatively affordable tools such as smartphone or action cams, and also a good mic that is not today is that expensive. So create content for social media platform is accessible to almost everyone, let's say. So this is why it's interesting to work with such format. And these formats are also ideal for short, I mean, they are ideal for short and engaging content, but maybe sometimes they are a bit too short to explore complex topics in depth. Because, for example, on platforms such as YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels, video are limited to something around 2 minutes, something like that. So it's bit short to explain something. And also in practice, even 2 minutes on such platform is already too long because if the audience is not engaged within the first few seconds, they will just scroll to the next video. So while this format is interesting and can be very effective, it's also quite challenging to master because it's really difficult. Those platforms are really difficult to master. So this is why at Sciencescape we use this platform to create educational content, just 1, 2 minutes maximum. But we mainly use this format also to complement our documentaries. We create short pieces from film extract, for example, or using behind the scene footage or shots that we didn't use at the end in the documentary. So we use everything to create content to complement the documentary. But of course, you can use it as a unique platform to share science, and it can work very well if you master the codes of such platforms. So yeah, these are the main video formats you can use to share science with broad audience: documentaries, explainers, and social media formats. Um, okay, so in conclusion, just let me recap the main ideas we discussed. So, as we saw, scientific communication is essential for making the connection between science and society a bit stronger, a bit visible, a bit strong. And there are many ways to communicate science, and these approaches should ideally complement each other. And video content is particularly powerful today because it can evoke emotion, reach large audiences, be distributed through many channels, and also video content exists in a wide range of formats from low-cost production to large documentaries. So you have many kind of formats you can work with. So yeah, this is why video content is interesting for scientific communication. And in general, when done effectively, scientific communication can maximize both impact and engagement, helping reach and inspire broader audiences. So yeah, thank you very much for your attention. And if you would like to learn a bit more about Sciencescape, you can scan these QR codes. And I'll be glad to answer any question you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jovan. That was really nice, very interesting.
Thank you.
I guess we can, yeah, indeed open for questions.